following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. Bay Area Baseball. Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. I'm Ralph Tycho, and we have the hosts of the A's part of Bay Area Baseball. We have ladies first, Nancy Finley. Hello, Nancy.
Hi.
How are you?
Great season.
Oh, it is, and no better way to start a season than with Nostradamus.
Yes.
Jerry Feitelberg.
And, thank you, Ralph.
All right, I'm going to let you guys go at it. Talk as long as you want. Just enjoy each other's company and know that your audience is privileged to listen to both of you. So have fun with it, and take it, Nancy. Start us off.
Hey, great. Thank you, Ralph. I wanted to ask you, Jerry, do you remember the Oakland Tribune writer Dave Newhouse?
Sure do.
Yes. Well, I said a few words at the Bay Area Sabre meeting a few weeks ago, and Dave was there. And he was there to talk about one of his new books. And he had not seen my book, so I gave it to him to read. And he called me and said he finished it. He wanted to return it to me, and he had said he had comments. He said he thought the sourcing was wonderful. And I was so pleased to hear that.
Yeah, well, the book was well researched, and it really was very, very informative. And if anyone hasn't read it, let everyone know what the title of the book was, Nancy.
Finley Ball.
Finley Ball, and it covered the creation of from the time that Charlie took over the team
and until Dad came in.
Yeah, and how your father ran the club until, and then he sold the club in 1980 to the House family.
And then Dad stayed. Mr. Newhouse, Dave Newhouse was talking about that and how wonderful Dad was in that time too.
Yeah, and I think the fans would like, when they read it, the history of what went on in Kansas City. They know that Charlie moved the team in 1968 was the first season after the 67 season.
Right.
But it was interesting to know about the newspaper person that tried to cause Charlie all kinds of problems and force him to sell the team.
What do you call that term he used?
He undermined Charlie.
I think extortion is what Morgan said.
Extortion, right? Yeah. And and Charlie brought the club here. They came here in '68. That was their fifth. It was actually the 51st season last year, but it was 50 years in Oakland, and I think they're going to be here hopefully for another 100 years.
Yes, and when I had my book signing in the Coliseum end of last season, it was just fans a mile long, and a couple of people asked if I had seen the sign at the Hall of Fame in Kansas City. No, but I've heard about it. And then someone said, you know how appalled people were at your uncle's color change, and they wouldn't even play with team members at the All-Star. I know that. Interesting how it was then with the colors, and now the colors are so embraced.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know. And people were telling me things, it's funny because I know it, but the thing about what's engraved in Kansas City is that we wanted to move the team, that we just yanked the team out of there as if we're just moody. We just want to move the team. We don't like here. That's not true at all, and it's engraved on that wall. So
yeah, and I think that the role that your father played in making sure that I think that he wanted to come to Oakland, and Charlie wanted to go somewhere else, and I think your father said Oakland was better.
He said, Dad said, I've planned Oakland. I have to live there. I have to live wherever the team is, so it's Oakland. Dad wasn't. No, Charlie didn't have to live where the team went. Charlie was back in Chicago. So
Yeah, I
there came
remember.
a time Dad doesn't like. I mean, Dad had planned. He had a place to live. I mean, he was going to live where the A's leased, but he wasn't going to just move somewhere else because Charlie thought it looked better. Also, Dad remembered that Oakland had called a lot to say they had a Coliseum already built, thanks to Al Davis.
Yeah.
And Dad remembered that. And as soon as that city council meeting raised the lease to so high we couldn't afford it, I heard there was a lot of hustling. Dad made a lot of phone calls to get to Oakland. Dad found where Charlie O. the Mule would be boarded. He had to arrange all that, the mules being driven back. No, he's not going to just agree to another place.
Well, now the A's have been at the Coliseum for 50. It's their 52nd season.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that the new president, he's not the new president, I think it's his third year with the club, Dave Cavill, has big plans to build the new stadium over at Howard Terminal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've discussed that. I'm still not sold on the Howard Terminal as the best possible location, but they're trying their best to do it, but they don't have a commitment yet from for the Port of Oakland for the sale of the property. They made some modifications on the stadium, but tell me your thoughts. Where would you like to see the stadium built?
On water, just on water.
You would.
I mean,
okay.
I don't know, like on anywhere on water, because that is what the East Bay has too. You don't want it to be landlocked. Because
that's interesting.
Well, that's my take on it, because that's what I look at the Giants and what helps them with their new stadium, and I'm thinking, okay, it's still cold. That didn't change, but people seem to like to take boats out and try to catch those balls. So I thought, okay, we've got the same thing. Now, the Coliseum now, it's near water, that's for sure. I could smell it when I moved out here, but it's not there on the water.
No, it's on a slough, and they have some problems. I know the Raiders have problems during football season. When it rains, the water comes up and it gets a little murky on the field.
Yeah,
but
they need drainage. They need better
they
drainage.
do.
Yeah, because
it's the stadium would be about 35,000 people. A very intimate stadium.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're planning to sell seat licenses or whatever they're doing, but it's still a vapor right now. They don't have anything firm and commitments, and I think the fans would like to have the commitment from the A's to build a stadium somewhere. And if this falls through, the last resort is the current location.
I agree. It's too bad because. Let me see. San Francisco put it on the ballot, so it was San Francisco, although they have people from Marin County and, as you know, the South Bay. So it's too bad that more cities than Oakland can't be involved, or maybe even a Northern California coalition. Because I remember that's how I saw it. It was... at that time, Oakland, I think, had 300,000 people. Realistically, that can't support a team.
Right, but you got to remember we're in a metropolitan area of 7 million people now.
Yes.
And there's plenty of room for two baseball teams.
Oh, there was then, too. It was the actually, we had people up from Fresno that came to the games. And then, as you know, from Mendocino, Redding, I can't pronounce it. It's in the Gulf.
Copperopolis.
Yes, thank you. A lady used to come down from that city, and she owned a bed and breakfast. I think she had a crush on Dad. But that's how I heard of that town. And so I think it's such a big draw that I was amazed. I think because of the Raiders that it had that name, but Oakland encompasses the whole territory here.
Right. Well, I thought the A Stadium had a lot easier access than Candlestick Park. It really did.
Oh, yeah.
And BART stops there, Caltrain stops there. The freeway access was good, and the freeways were crowded, but not as crowded as they are now. But it's still easy. It was easier to get to the A's game than it was to go to a Giants game at Candlestick. Now the new stadium downtown is wonderful for the Giants. This is their 20th year, and they're just doing phenomenal.
You know what? We're going to. I was thinking of this when I left the new Lefty O'Doul, which is on Fisherman's Wharf, and I went toward the freeway. I passed the stadium, and I'm thinking, okay, if they move to that other location, they're going to have a themed restaurant with a big World Series trophy. We have to stay competitive.
Yeah, well, they're not that far away from Jack London Square. It's still a little bit of hike to get there, and they're going to have to figure out methods of shuttling people back and forth from the stadium to Jack London Square. And the square could be great because just like, for example, in downtown San Jose, when the Sharks are playing, all the restaurants near there benefit because people go to the restaurants before the game. And that could be a similar situation for the A's. Although the A's would want all the people buying their hot dogs, but,
Oh, yes. I think, well, the airport, I look at it like with Candlestick, that was near the airport. And then now the A's near the airport. So it would be the same situation when the A's moved to the water. You'd have the same situation the Giants have, but it hasn't affected it.
Well, we'll see what happens. I'm pulling for Cavill to pull it off. We heard some negative comments from the people that bring the big freighters into the port of Oakland, that the lights might be blinding to the pilots and to the captains when they bring the ships in. And I'm sure they can resolve that problem somehow.
What do the Giants do? I mean, I would compare and contrast, because they're saying it might. So there's always
I don't think the Giants have that problem because the Giants really aren't there's ship traffic on the estuary. I don't think there's that much ship traffic by McCovey Cove. They're sort of on that little inlet.
Well, they could place the lights a certain way. Nowadays.
They'll figure it out.
Dad telling people the PG&E bill was $10,000 a month.
That was then. Try it now.
God.
Man.
But that's the thing though. They can do a lot with lighting now to prevent that. And as you know, with engineering, buildings have gone up that have backfired. If they are a certain angle, they cause the sun people to heat up in a next door building. So things can happen, but engineers can make it right. That's what I say.
And now we need, the A's. We need Billy Beane to engineer a winning team, and he brought back an old friend, Sandy Alderson,
as
a consultant.
Sandy. I remember Sandy when he started. He was our.
Yeah, I like Sandy.
Yes.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Neat.
He was I have our '83 yearbook schedule, and his name I think is Richard, and he was counsel. He was the team counsel, and he was very interested, and Dad was showing him the ropes. I remember they flew a lot together. And
oh, nice.
Yeah, Dad said he had good stuff. Dad said Sandy had what it took.
Yeah, I got a chance to talk to him a few times, when I was on the A's medical staff back in the 90s. And Sandy was the general manager up through the 97 season. Beane became general manager in 98. And in the 97 season, he had the toughest time because Mark McGwire was going to be a free agent at the end of the year, and McGwire had made it quite clear that he was not going to sign a contract with the A's because I think the payroll in '97 was, a number that so low that you couldn't believe it, maybe $30 million.
That was a year after the sale of Hasso, too, wasn't it?
Could be, yeah.
A year or two, okay.
Yeah, well, the A's payroll in '95 was $34 million, and they sold the team to Schott and Hoffman after Walter Haas passed away. And '96 was the first season that the Schott and Hoffman had the team. They wanted the payroll cut from $35 to $24 million. And so McGwire at that time was going to be a free agent at the end of the '97 season, and I think the going rate for a guy of his ability was around $8 or $9 million a year. And McGwire said, "I don't want to be 25% of the payroll. If I'm 25% of the payroll, I'm not going to have anybody around me. We're going to have all these rookies and people who aren't making a lot of money, and we're not going to be winners." And so Sandy had to trade him. And I was at the park one Sunday, and Barry Weinberg, who was the trainer, said, "Don't talk to Sandy today. He's not in a good mood. He's really working to trade McGwire, and he really doesn't want to do it."
Ouch. Is that why La Russa went too?
I didn't hear you.
Is that why La Russa left?
Oh, well, no, La Russa had got left after the '95 season. He was in St. Louis. But the key to the trade, to the Cardinals, was the fact that Walt Jocketty, who had been the assistant general manager in '93,
we hired Walt.
Yeah, Walt. Yeah, Walt was running the Cardinals, so that was the connection, and the Cardinals had money. They had a winning tradition, and so they engineered the deal to send McGwire to St. Louis. And after the end of the '97 season, Weinberg went to St. Louis because Jocketty offered him a terrific contract to be the Cardinals' head trainer. So that was
just hearing Walt's name brings back memories. He was head of our minor league division.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he left during or after the '93 season. He went to the Rockies, and then he was there a couple of years before he went to St. Louis. I really didn't get to know him at all.
Oh, he's wonderful. He came out for Dad's memorial, which we put together very fast. Dad was interred in Dallas, but Walt flew out for that, and it was when the season was starting. He was in St. Louis, so I could tell he had a lot on his shoulders, but he's a very nice person.
Yeah, he left the Cardinals. He went to Cincinnati, but I don't know if he's still active with Cincinnati now or not.
Poor thing. I mean, that's
I just don't know.
That's tough.
Well, in baseball, executives move around, managers move around, players move around. It's just the nature of the game.
That's something, in a way, I just thought. Bean has that in common with Dad. Dad stayed. In fact, Dad had offers. But he didn't want to move me again, and then he was very loyal. And then Bean has stayed in the same place.
Yeah, Bill, right, and in the movie Moneyball, and it's part of the true story about Billy Bean, he was offered in the 2002 season, at the end of the season, he went to Boston and interviewed for the general manager's job in Boston. And he was offered a ton of money to take the job, and he said he turned it down. And the Red Sox then gave the job to Theo Epstein. And you know what happened with Theo and the Red Sox. They won their first World Series title since 1918 in 2004.
I remember that. Now, didn't Bean turn it down because he had custody of a daughter?
Right, exactly.
Dad had me. That was Dad.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's why Bean stayed, and of course now Bean has a small percentage of the club, and he's got total control. No one, I don't know if he answers to John Fisher or not. He's the number one guy on the baseball side, and Cavill runs the business side.
Wow, it just occurred to me how much he has in common with Dad. Except Dad was just decided to retire in '84 because I think that it was really difficult for him to do full time. I mean, he'd done it so long. He didn't even get into baseball till he was 37.
He was a kid. Oh, I was 54 when I started with the A's.
Oh, okay, because that was, and he'd never lived outside of Texas except during World War II. But still, that's a huge leap.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot. Okay, well, yeah, he was a kid. You're right, but that's a lot in common with Billy Beane. I hadn't thought of that because you're right. People move around a lot. It's like tech jobs.
Yeah, I was just reading about a fellow that Charlie fired, Frank Lane. Someone.
You know what I feel about that. That is what brought out the Mel thing in the public. That's That's why Dad was begged to come in by Charlie, Frank Lane. Do you know where Frank Lane was before the A's? He was with the Cleveland Indians.
Yeah, and didn't he go to the Cardinals for a while? And
after
the White Sox.
Well, I recommend one book I used as a source was Roger Maris, 2010, and I remember Danny Peary was a co-writer, and that book, that was wonderful. I used a lot of the quotes from that book because they mentioned Frank Lane and how much Roger Maris detested him, and they also talked about Frank Lane's personality and what good friends Lane was with Mel, and they say that Lane destroyed the Indians when he left. I don't know. I was just born, I think. But have you heard that? It was
that's what they're talking about. He did destroy the Indians. He made a lot of trades, and
okay,
who knows?
Dad was upset that Charlie didn't do any homework. When Charlie won the auction, Mel offered his hand. Charlie didn't know who he was, and then said, if you need a good GM, I have just the person for you. And Charlie accepted right there on the spot without looking into the background. And Dad said,
didn't Frank Lane trade Maris to the Yankees?
Oh, yes. And
from Kansas City?
Yes, and when Charlie said, Charlie gave him a lot in the beginning. He didn't know his background, and Charlie didn't like to really investigate people. If he liked you, he liked you. If someone referred you, that was good for him. So he said, no trades to New York from now on unless I give permission. Frank Lane went and traded to New York. And so I think Lane saw Charlie much younger at the time, and that he didn't have experience that he could get away with it.
Yeah, well, when Arnold Johnson owned the A's in the 50s, the A's were the Yankees minor league club. They had players shuttling back and forth. I think Ralph Terry, Bob Serve, other players went back.
The mayor, there's the mayor of Cooperstown. At least when I went back there for a book signing, he wrote a book called the Kansas City Athletics and the Other Half of the Yankees. And that's a book I use for sources, and I can tell he's trying to figure out what happened. He doesn't know about the extortion, but he gets right up to where Johnson dies, and he's really curious what went on here, because why wasn't there any criticism of Johnson by Mel? As much as Johnson was, tearing the team up and trading the good players, why wasn't there any criticism? So he really gets to a lot of points. And I thought, right on. I love that book. It was, I come across these books and I can fill in the blanks because because when I look at it, I see, okay, who was running the team during Johnson? Who was in the front office? It was the star. the star people. I mean,
yeah,
I don't think that's right, but that's just my opinion. So Johnson was Mel. I looked into it. The Star was employee-owned at that time. They didn't really have a big boss. And Mel had been there many, many years and was very well known in the community. So, he was able to bring people in to do, one of his writers ended up being a GM, Park Carroll. And they mentioned that in the Roger Maris book. And I thought, wow, this is good stuff. Because it corroborates what I've heard, but I certainly wouldn't put something out just from gossip.
Okay, well, now that's history. Let's go to
Prediction.
the upcoming season. Yeah,
yes,
here we go.
Yes, I want to hear what you have to say.
Well, last year I thought last year that the A's were going to be an up and coming team. I picked them to win 82 games. They won 97, but they've got a lot of talent on the field. Well, they snuck up on a lot of people last year. They were able to beat the Red Sox. I think they took the season series from the Red Sox last year, and the Red Sox won a record number of games. They set a franchise record, and they won their fourth World Series since 2004. Mm-hmm. But the A's had their number. The A's this year, they've got a very strong bullpen. I like their bullpen. Mm-hmm. They've got solid infield. They lost Jed Lowry, but and unfortunately, Lowry's got some knee issues, and he signed a nice 2-year contract with the Mets for $20 million. And I don't think the A's were going to give $20 million to a 35-year-old second baseman who had a history of injuries, although he performed well the last 2 years. And they made a trade for Jurickson Profar to play second base. So they got a pretty good infield with Chapman, Semien, Profar, and Olsen. Solid. They've got in the outfield and right field, they got Stephen Piscotty, who was terrific last year. Mm-hmm. They came up with they got this young center fielder, Ramon Laureano, from the Houston Astros, and he played very, very well. Tremendous fielder. Left field, they got Nick Martini, and I think they've got another guy that they can platoon with them out in left field. Chad Pinder, of course, can play outfield, and he's a super sub, can play all the infield positions. The two weaknesses that they have is they got 3 backup catchers. They signed the former Giant backup, Nick Hundley. They've got Josh Begley, who's been a backup for the last 3 years. He came over in the trade with the Semien for Jeff Samardzija. And the third one is a fellow by the name of Herman, who is a left-handed left-hand hitter. But I don't think any of the catchers, in my humble opinion, would be as effective as Jonathan Lucroy was last year. And for some reason, the A's didn't make him an offer. He was a free agent. They signed him last year for $6 million, and the Angels signed him as a free agent for half that money. And I'm sure the A's could have found $3 million for a player.
What do you think happened?
I have no idea what went on. LaCroix wanted to make sure he didn't want to wait until February to get signed like he did last year. He wanted some certainty for his family. So I guess he was willing to take it. $3 million is still a lot of money.
That's true. And in this business, you just have to wait. You just have to be very flexible. It's tough.
Yeah, and the other weakness is the rotation, the starting rotation. They had 10 guys in the starting rotation last year. Graveman went down. He eventually had Tommy John surgery. He's gone. Sean Manaea, who was pitching very well, had a shoulder problem. I don't know if he will be back at all this year. Jarrell Cotton went down. A.J. Pook went down. Puck went down with Tommy John. They had 4 pitchers with Tommy John surgery. Now Puck and Cotton will be back this year. Probably not till June. They both went down in spring training, so it's been a year, so it might take a couple more months before they're ready to come back. Well, that would give the rotation a jolt. The A's did not sign Edwin Jackson. He was on a 1-year contract. He was a free agent. He's out there. Pitched very well for the A's last year, but they didn't bring him back.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't been picked up.
No?
Not that I know of. But they got Mike Fiers, who they got in a trade with the Tigers. He's okay. And they signed Marco Estrada, who's 35. But I think Estrada's on the downside of his career. I hope he's a reclamation project. They signed Brett Anderson, and Anderson was hurt part of the year, pitched okay a couple of times. And so they got a couple guys. They got this guy Luzardo, young left-hand pitcher, but he hasn't really. He's 21 or 22. He really hasn't spent a lot of time in the minor leagues. He's got electric stuff, from what I'm hearing, but he may not be ready. So the A's might bring him up, or then who knows? I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see what happens in spring training. There are a couple guys out there that they could sign. One of them used to play for the A's, Gio Gonzalez, a left-hand pitcher. He was with the Nationals, and then he went to the Brewers. He's a free agent. Might cost the A's some money, but their payroll is still manageable. They're not. Well, I should say, I think they had the lowest payroll in major leagues last year. They're around $70 million, so they have some money to spend. But I don't know if they're willing to do it.
We've always been known to be low.
There was a guy out there too that was a right-hander that I thought was looking for a job, was Clay Buchholz, but Buchholz signed with Toronto yesterday, and the rap on him is that he gets hurt, and he was pitched well for the Diamondbacks last year, and he got hurt. So I think the A's are going to be okay if they can get the rotation down. If they can get 5 solid starters, I think they've got one in Fiers, a maybe in Estrada. Brett Anderson is a maybe, and we don't know for 1 and 2. So it's a work in progress. They're going to use Paul Blackburn and Daniel Megden, maybe Chris Bassett. Hopefully those guys will stay healthy. Andrew Triggs will be back. So they do have some players, but as far as they know, they're unknown quantities. And until they get the rotation straightened out, I think that they're going to have a winning season, but I don't think they're going to win 97. I think they might win 85-90 this year.
Well,
that'll be my prediction.
That was close to your prediction last year, and it went over. So
yeah, they did it with a banged-up rotation. So, but they have a dynamite bullpen. If they can get guys to give them 5 innings, 5 solid innings, or 6 innings, they have guys that can pitch this 1 inning, the 6th inning, the 7th inning, the 8th inning, the 9th inning. Trinan was lights-out closer last year. Lou Trevino was a tremendous success. They've got Joaquin Soria, who is a closer. They got Fernando Rodney's coming back. They've got Ryan Dull. They've got the lefty Ryan Buchter. So they've got some pitchers out there, and that will solidify the back end of the bullpen. So they're strong there, and the players on the field they've got good solid players. As I said, I like to see them strengthen the catching. There's still a free agent out there, Martin Maldonado. I think that would be a welcome addition to the A's.
I think Billy Bean listens to us, or has someone listen to us, because your recommendations last season were heard. I know that. Had to be. Everyone listened to that. No, you really did call it. And it was fun.
Yeah, well, it was fun. It was fun to watch. They were a good team, and LaCroix really solidified the pitching. He hit about 240, which is about not all that bad for a catcher, but he was very good with the pitching staff, and that's what they need. And I think that's what they brought Hundley in for, was to work with the pitching staff. Not that Feitelberg is a bad catcher, but he was hurt part of the year. Not that Herman's not a bad catcher, but they don't have very much pop in the bat. And I would like to see someone like Maldonado or someone they could make a trade. I understand Francisco Cervelli is available from the Pirates, so they can make a deal with them to get an established catcher.
In fact, as you know, you really get a handle on it when the season starts, and then you can always change. You can always change in mid-season if needed.
Well, my understanding is they got a prize catching prospect that they plan to bring up sometime during the season. So that's why they've been reluctant to make a deal.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens on that score.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Because I know I get our rosters out in the late 70s because I like to look at the names. Because I just think that's what our 81 team was all about. The same people, the same guys. And at the Sabre luncheon, people were talking about Glenn Burke. And I reminded everyone, yes, he was one of ours in 78, I think, 77, 78. And it's just, it was. But I think he was gone by 81. But he did help us get back up. I think we had two co-managers in 79. Oh.
Did you go to the Sabre luncheon with what was it, Marlene?
Oh yes.
That was about a month ago at Ricky's Sports Bar in San Leandro.
Yes.
Yeah, I was hoping to go to that, but I had a conflict in the schedule.
Oh, yeah, I got up and spoke, and I went up to the table. That's when Dave Newhouse mentioned his book. And, I just love going to those because I meet new people. People will tell me something about someone I suddenly remember. And it's just a lot of fun. I wish you'd been there.
Yeah, but sometimes my calendar doesn't allow it. I may have been doing a Warrior game that day.
Oh, yeah, the War. Oh my God, are they? They have their new place now, don't they?
Yeah, the Warriors are going to be moving to the Chase Center at the end of the season. This is their last season at Oracle Arena.
Oh, they're
and
okay.
It's going to be sensational, but they have seat licenses, and the cost to see a Warrior game is off the charts. It's going to be so expensive for people.
That's amazing. I remember going across to the arena just to see whatever was playing because we could swap out. People over there would come see a game, and we would do the same. And actually, it wasn't that difficult to get in up till a few years ago, and then boom, they were just. Their marketing was tremendous.
Well, with Joe Lacob and Peter Guber, they really know how to market the team. The prior owner, Chris Cohan, it was not difficult to get tickets to a Warrior game. They drew well, but they never sold out like they're doing now. And the team was not good. It won the championship in 1975. Mm-hmm. And for 40 years after that, they were just awful. Yeah. They would win some years 20 games a year or 22 games a year. But the fans came, and they loved basketball in the Bay Area. And it was a good venue, but the team was going nowhere.
Well, I remember when in 75, we really didn't have – I mean, it was sort of like, okay, we're winning again. And so – I was helping with ticket sales for the World Series, and then at the same time, the Warriors, and then weren't the Raiders winning too?
Yeah, no, the Raiders were good in those days, yeah.
It was amazing. It was like, Oakland really has the best of everything. That was an amazing time, that whole year. That's when Time Magazine had Charlie on the cover. I sent, by the way, the A's an 8x10 of that magazine cover. I know they can always blank out the word time to put on that history wall.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, that represents 75. When he started wearing that hat in post-divorce.
Those were good days for Oakland. And if you recall, in the 70s, football in San Francisco, the Niners weren't very good.
Yeah.
And the Giants weren't very good in those days.
You're right, because Dad would go over and sit with the owner. Dad was offered a job with them. Oh, yeah, like he would do that. But when we were on the road and the Giants were playing, Dad would go over there with Mr. Lurie. So I remember that. It wasn't really anything to talk about.
No, and the people that would go to the games at Candlestick Park, they had their base of fans, their 12 to 14,000 fans that would be in the stadium every night. Not unlike the band, the rabid fans that the A's have, the great loyal base that they have that go through thick and thin, whether the team is good or bad. They're at the ballpark cheering their team on. Last year they were rewarded with a team that won 97 games, that played terrific baseball, solid fundamental baseball.
Now our Coliseum. Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. I wanted to ask about the seating. Now, the new stadiums all have less seating than what this Coliseum has.
Right.
Okay, that's why I see now when if I take a picture of something at the stadium, I think, oh, I don't like all those empty seats showing, because there are a lot of seats. So I see now why they reduced the seating, and it is cozier, but it makes sense.
Well, and Dave Cavill, they introduced the treehouse last year out in left field, and the fans love that. Mm-hmm. They're putting in tables and making it easier for people to sit and have barbecue or whatever, have food before the game, and enjoy the game with tables and having their drinks on tables rather than seats. So that's going to be nice. They're trying to make the stadium fan friendly.
That's like what Charlie did in Kansas City. He had a seating area for picnics for families next to the petting zoo. I don't know if health-wise that was a great idea at that time, but that's what he was doing. And that's what the treehouse and all of that reminds me of. Taylor walked through it and didn't want to go to the suite with me. She wanted to stay at the treehouse. It was just so funny. I mean, what Dave has done with the stadium, it's ballpark. That's what it is.
And remember that the A's have much right now with the Coliseum parking. There's ample parking. People can come and have a tailgate party, or they can come. Yeah, and they can come into the ballpark and they can bring their family. When you go to San Francisco, the seat prices are much higher in San Francisco for the Giants than they are for the A's. And the A's have great promotions. They always have Little League Day. Bring your kid. They bring your dog. They have that day. So, and
bring
of course
your dog
now they're doing. Yeah. Well, you know who one of the players that really loved it was Jason Giambi. The players brought their dogs to the stadium that day too, on Bark Day. So that was kind of nice.
Oh, that is. Question: Do the Giants have any parking? If you just decide you want to drive and you'll pay whatever to park, do they have that accessibility?
They have some parking. They had Lot A, but Larry Bayer is going to develop that. And I don't know what they're going to do, because that's where the media parks. The media gets parking.
And employees.
In lots. Mm-hmm. They get some of the beat writers get better parking, but Lot A is for the guys with lesser credentials. You know, the newspaper guys, the TV guys get where the players park, I think.
Yeah.
But Lot A has been, and of course the A's for the media. They treat the media nicely. At the Giants, you got to pay for parking. It's a modest amount. It's a small amount.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was $8. It's $8 for the Giants, but
okay, that's not bad.
No.
One
but
thing
I don't know if a lot. Yeah.
You said something I'd never thought about, and a lot of people had not, is if you're going to do away with the tailgate with the newer stadium, with the less, the type of parking they have now. No one thought of that.
That may happen with a new stadium. That may happen with a new stadium because there's not parking's going to be limited unless they probably will be building parking structures if they can.
That was a wow
to accommodate.
You said
they want
that.
To build,
wow.
They want to build. Yeah, they want to build a gondola to shuttle people from 11th Street all the way over to the stadium, because they don't want them walking from the 12th Street BART station all the way over to that area. And I don't know what they're going to do from the West Oakland station. And it's in an industrial area. Now, I don't know if they're going to make additional space available to develop it. We talked about the restaurants.
Right.
There might be some parking at Jack London Square. There may be some shuttles. They got to figure out how to get people there and
is it all
get them
owned,
there
or
comfortably.
Is some of it abandoned, or where it could be eminent domain, or is it all actively owned and industry working?
I don't know about the terminal, or if it's been abandoned or not. I know that Schnitzler Steel is right adjacent to the property, and they do a lot of work at night. They make a lot of noise. That might be a problem. Who knows? But you get people want to be in their cars. They have to be able to put the cars somewhere. And
Too bad they can't gondola to the former Navy base, huh?
Oh yeah, that'd be okay. Yeah, that would be okay too. That's a great idea. Run the gondola from the Navy base over to to Jack London Square. Sure, but
oh my God,
it'd be done.
Great views over there in Alameda, as you know.
Oh, they could just have a ferry from Alameda over to the ballpark.
Oh yeah,
there's some parking there, and they can run the ferry back and forth.
I love South Shore because you go shopping and you see San Francisco. It's just there.
You brought up South Shore. That is, I believe, the only shopping center that was built on a beach that faced the ocean.
Wow, and such a beautiful city.
Oh yeah, gorgeous.
I love it over there. In California, that's the only one.
As far as I know, it might be the only one in the country.
That's another thing that made me think of putting the A's on the water because of how beautiful it is in a place like that. I thought, well, Oakland must have places like that along it, somewhere on the water, just across.
Yeah, well, it's going to be exciting if it is on the water. If the stadium gets built, looking forward to it. I am absolutely looking forward to it.
I know, and it's great that they have made improvements here too, where they are just in the meantime.
Yeah, are you going to be at the stadium for opening day?
I will try. I just hope things let up with Morgan's cases. I will try.
Yeah.
What is that date again?
It's Thursday, March 28th.
Okay, make sure everyone hears that.
Yeah, they have two openings. They have two openings. They're going to have opening day March 28th, and then opening night March 29th.
I was at the opening night that Friday night.
Yeah, I have a conflict. I have a conflict on the 29th. So, but I will be there on the 28th.
By the way, I sent George Toma a picture of the new Harvey, and then he sent me a picture of himself with the old Harvey. Because okay,
I hope they bring Harvey back this year.
I do too.
And one more thing before we go. I know Charlie was a proponent of the DH.
Yes.
And now Rob Manfred, they're proposing that the National League finally go to the DH very soon. Not this season, but maybe next year.
I thought you were going to say do away with it totally. So
No.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they have some changes. they want to have a 20-second pitch clock, in between pitches, 20 seconds to speed up the game. They want to have when they bring in a pitcher, he has to face a minimum of 3 batters, so that the situational pitchers, the pitching changes are taking too long. Remember, TV doesn't like it when baseball games go more than 3 hours.
I didn't like it when that happened either. And double headers. But about the clock, we did that, and if we found it didn't help, I don't know. I mean, it does need to be scrutinized because it does go very long.
Okay, Ralph, are you there?
We're finished, and we've gone about an hour.
Yeah, we've done this for long. We're talking A's baseball.
We can probably wrap it up on our own. Opening day is March 28th, Thursday, everyone.
Yeah.
We have listeners on the East Coast, too.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a day game, so maybe it will be on the MLB network, and they'll be able to watch the A's open the season against the LA Angels. And before we go, the Angels have Mike Trout, who's going to be a free agent at the end of the 2020 season. And Bryce Harper just signed a 13-year deal worth $330 million. How much do you think Mike Trout is worth?
Well, worth or offered? I'm not the person to ask because I came out of this low-paying team, but I would say $5 million.
Yeah.
Something
Who knows? Before we go, I'd like to have a shout out to our friend Amaury P. Gonzalez. Amaury had to have a procedure done this week, and he's recovering, and he's going to miss the first 2 months of the season. So we wish him a speedy recovery and hope to see him as soon as possible. Speedy recovery. Get that doctor's report as soon as possible. Yeah. Remind the doctor. Yes. Yeah. See him in June, I guess. Right. There you go. Okay. And then. Okay, Nancy. This has been great. Thank you, Jerry, and for your predictions. And I always learn something from you. You're amazing. Oh, thank you. Okay. Love talking to you. Take care, everyone. And okay, bye-bye. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
The proceeding was a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production. Thank you for listening.